Today's paint is a little fugitive. What's up friends, Liron here. Welcome to another episode of The Paint Show. In this one we're gonna look at Alizarin Crimson, which is by the Cotman brand, which is a sub-brand under Winsor Newton. The Cotman is a line of paints, of watercolor paints, that are a little cheaper than the main Winsor Newton brand. They make student grade paints, not artist grade. I got started with these ones and I actually really like them, had some good experiences with them. It's like the top tier of the low tier, and so I really suggest giving it a shot. It's just a good beginner's paint. And this one that we're looking at now, the Alizarin Crimson, focus, thank you, is a slightly cool red. It's more close to purple than orange. Now it's really interesting. Alizarin is a name that you'll find in many other paints as well, and that's because it's named after an organic dye that's made of the madder plant. And this plant, again, madder may sound familiar to you as well, because, for example, I have here, this one's Madder Lake Deep, this paint here in my disgusting old palette. And so the madder plant, again, it's a very common name that just got loaned with time to represent many different paints. In the past, it used to actually be made of that plant, and then with time, again, it became less natural organic and more synthetic organic, so made of substitutes that can mimic the properties of the original dye, because just to prevent some light fastness issues, okay? Also, this explains the madder name, because there are many different pigments, like this one I just showed you, Madder Lake Deep. There's also brown madder, so many sort of pigments and substances that were originally based on this plant or this ingredient. So this one's pigment is PR206, Pigment Red 206. I checked, it's really interesting because Daniel Smith has a very similar, it's just another tube paint that has the exact same pigment, which is, I have it written down, I believe, Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet. And so it just goes to show you how important it is to actually look at the real data on the tube or on the company's website, as opposed to just looking at the marketing name, which can lead you astray, you know, because Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet, but it actually has the same ingredients as this one, or at least very similar. Now, I don't say these are identical, definitely not. There's gonna be some differences because it's different brands and different constitutions. There may be different binders and different, all sorts of components that go into the tube. But it's just very interesting to see the sort of correlations. So this paint's constitution numbers are 73900 and 73920. These are, again, based on an indigo dye that, again, in the past was more organic, natural, and now it's synthetically made. I couldn't find it on this tube, unfortunately, so I actually had to go and do some research online. It seems like the lower grades of watercolor paints sometimes omit some of the information, so I think it's really important to educate yourself and sort of understand what to expect from each brand as well. So if you go get a Daniel Smith watercolor or Schminky or all of the brands that are a little more high quality, you'll get all the information on the tube. With this one, you may need to do a little research. But I think it's great, you know, it's definitely not something to blame these companies for, because you can look at it a different way. Winsor Newton actually makes a line of products that allows people to pay less and to get a relatively high quality paint, so it's like I'm not angry at them. It's a part of what they do. Now, continuing with this line, this doesn't have an ASTM light fastness rating, unfortunately, not on the tube and not on the website. Winsor Newton actually has usually ASTM rating, but they say that when it's not present on the tube or on the website, to take into consideration the permanence rating. So they have another scale, and I think it's an internal rating system for them. So it goes from AA to A to B to C. So AA is extremely permanent, A is just permanent, B is moderately durable, and C was fugitive. So this one is A, so it's not that bad, it's not the most reliable, so it may change a bit over time, it may fade a bit or changes its hue a bit, but it's definitely not like the lowest tier, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. As for the series, it's a series 1, it's relatively cheap, very common pigment, used again in many different paints, and so it's just cheap to make. This one, from my personal experience, is non-granulating. I checked online and it seems that PR206 isn't supposed to be granulating. With this specific brand, it wasn't in my past experience with this paint. As for the transparency, it is fully transparent. This is according to Winsor & Newton's rating system, but also the pigment in general, from what I've seen on most tubes that it's used, it's transparent. Now, one last thing regarding the light fastness issue. So if you're worried that it's A and not AA, first of all, I suggest if you do want this specific pigment, this specific color exactly, go ahead, get it. I wouldn't be too worried. If you don't want to, there are many alternatives. By Winsor & Newton, actually, they have the permanent alizarin hue that is the artist grade, and it's also, I think it's more expensive, of course, but that's a good alternative. And there are many in that same range of other paints like Quinacridone Rose, things of that nature that can replace this one if you're worried about the light fastness, which I think you shouldn't be too worried about. And this is it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new about Alizarin Crimson. Maybe you'd want to give it a shot. Definitely up to you if this interests you. So again, if you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe to my channel just to receive updates on more episodes to come of this series. I have a really cool idea. I thought about making it a daily show, so like maybe five times a week, and just in addition to all the other videos I do. So to just have like every day of this show, and in addition publish all sorts of other videos. That way we can get to just more tubes, because there's so many out there. So first of all, let me know what you think about making this daily. It's gonna be a little more work on my side, but I'm willing to go there. And also let me know what other paints, pigments, brands you want me to review. As I showed you, I got these ones, or I'm not sure because I scheduled some of my videos. Maybe you haven't seen my review of Artscape, my Artscape, another set of tubes that I bought. So I have all of these to go through, and maybe some other of the Daniel Smith, or some other of the Winsor & Newton, and some other ones I ordered and I should get soon. So let me know if you want me to do specific pigments, and I'll just add it to my list for sure, and we can go over them. So this is it. I'll see you again in another video. Take care.